record? Yes, I am recording this.
Okay, great. And do we want to rotate note keepers, or would one person want to keep notes, or do you guys have preferences for that?
Let's rotate it if possible. I'm happy to
Sure.
be backup note keeper, but you know, having more people participating is great. So we are breakup out group 2, and we've hit recording. I'm recording this, and yeah. So if everybody has the document that where we are recording, that would be great if everyone can see it.
So we should.
I'm going to go ahead and just put it in the chat again. That's the document where we're going to be harvesting, doing like a written notes thing of what people offer.
Okay, great. So would anyone like to start with their immediate thoughts about either of the two pieces?
I have one thought.
Go ahead.
So one thing that I really like the restructured proposal, like because I like the fact that it's oriented towards self-organized systems. Like that's great, and I've seen that work quite well. The one issue that one concern I had was the time scale for what's that called, for like representative. What's the word for that? The terms, basically, the terms for these different representatives and how those would line up and stuff like that. It's just like such a huge web that it would seems hard to like switch that out appropriately, keep it kind of democratic. So yeah.
Okay. Would anyone else like to speak next and reflect back that? Or also I can reflect back. So it seemed like you were saying that you liked the second proposal, right? The one that came out of the local chapters, because it focused on SOS organization, and you've seen that work before, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But the one thing that you did not like was the terms for the delegates. Was that correct?
Yeah, the reps, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, just a clarification. I didn't quite understand that, so I don't know what to put in the notes. In one of the proposals, you didn't like how the delegates are referred to?
No, I just think that it's hard to. You have the local group having representatives to the regional group, having representatives to the national group, and then in the local group, there's going to be a whole self-organized system like network there, and it just seems like in practice this might just sort itself out, but it seems hard to if somebody's representing at the regional level, but then they want to do something like it's a lot of paths to go through to switch people off, because I know that like you need to, terms are important, and keeping track of those seems like it would be a little bit hard.
So hard to keep track and this was specifically in the SOS document.
Yeah.
Hard to keep track of the different roles at the different levels.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And did you, and if you didn't, that's fine, but did you happen to, oh, sorry. Yep.
I just wanted to point out, Rosa, that you need to move the notes down below where it says breakout group 2.
Oh, I've been writing on the wrong one. Thank you
I was
so
wondering
much.
why.
Okay.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So did you, William, did you think of and it's fine if you didn't, but some kind of like alternative that you'd like to put forward, so that maybe some kind of system for keeping track of them or something like that?
No, I did not think of anything.
Yeah, that,
But the alternative that's in the original proposal is going top down, which is seemingly more efficient. But I don't like the idea of that because that's too similar to our current system in general, right? So
right. So I'm hearing you say that you you the alternative that you see is a more top-down based system similar to the other document, but you also have reservations about that because it's too similar to our current system. And by our current system, do you mean XR's current system or like the US government's current system?
I mean like the U.S. government, yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
it's too much like the status quo and like the US government and stuff like that. Okay,
yeah. Mhm.
thank you.
If I may, I wrote that down as concern about the top-down nature of the first proposal. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to share my thoughts as facilitator. What do you think, Rosa?
Um, I think it would be useful given the oh, I just it's so tricky. I can think
Mhm.
of a good argument either way. Like you need to be able to be a part of this as well, and at the
Mhm.
same time, my concern would be that if as facilitators we are sharing our perspectives, that people are going to feel like we're taking sides,
Right, yep.
and so I wonder if maybe there would be another place to offer that input, like rather than right here. I
Mhm.
don't know. What do others think about
Maybe
it?
a compromise could be I could go last.
Does that work?
That
Okay,
works for me.
great.
Okay, so are there other thoughts about, okay, Pam?
One of my concerns about both proposals is that there's an awful lot of drawing away local energy to either the regional or the national organizing. And even in the second proposal, there was a reference to the urgency of what we're working on. And I know that some people weren't participating in today's conversation because they see it as a distraction from what we need to be doing. And I'm a little concerned that if we start having to send representatives to a regional and or national, that will suck away the most active worker bees from our local efforts.
Okay, so I'm hearing you say that you're concerned that either of these proposals, by creating kind of more structures, will suck away resources and energy and manpower from the local groups doing their actions and doing um, their day-to-day stuff, and that you highlighted the urgency of the current situation, and you're worried that taking those resources away might undermine us. Is that fair?
Yes, thank you. Except I usually don't call it manpower.
Sorry, yeah, yeah, people power.
There we go.
And I may have written that down slightly differently, so I just want to share what I wrote down. Concern about both proposals, drawing away local energy to toward regional or national organizing. And then some people are not participating today because they see it as a distraction from the urgency of the on the ground work. Is that close enough, or is there anything you'd like to tweak there? Okay. Awesome. Kendall, if you're still with us, I'm curious if you would like to contribute something. Okay, just thought I'd ask because. Okay, and she just wrote that she hasn't read through everything yet.
Okay, that's fine. But if you have any thoughts about the conversation too, you can share those as well. Okay. Well, thank you
Okay.
for listening in.
No pressure, Kendall.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure that if you had anything to say, you had a space to say it. I really appreciate your offering that, Quinn. So very cool. So anything else from anybody else who's not Quinn? Because I know he has a lot of thoughtful things to offer. Go for it, Quinn.
Well, do you have anything to offer, Rosa?
I may, but let's go with you.
Okay, so I wrote down a few points here. I liked and if anyone wants me to stop to reflect things back, then just what was the symbol that we had agreed on for that?
The symbol for pause. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Timeout.
we can do timeout.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can do timeout. Yeah.
Okay. So, oh, it was peace, right?
It was
Yeah.
peace sign for pause. Yeah.
Okay. So, one thing that I liked from the first proposal is they made it clear that in their kind of preamble that they didn't want National to be seen as being in charge of the um, local groups. So I liked that. However, I disliked that National would still be picking its own members, which an alternative to that I kind of thought about was maybe either a delegate-based process or a sortition-based process. Um, so, and also the ability for National to dismiss its own members without the consent of the local groups, I also felt like was kind of going against that principle that they said that they weren't in charge. So those were my thoughts on the first proposal. Okay.
And I want to invite if anybody else wants to do the reflecting. I don't need to do it all, but I can. So just yeah. Okay. So Nick, the first thing is something you like, an element you like from the first proposal is how they had an explicit preamble about not wanting National to be seen as in charge, as being in charge. And then, but something you disliked from the first proposal is that the way it's written, National would still be picking their own members. And so it can be like, you didn't say this part, but almost like a little self-perpetuating group that.
Right, yeah.
And so and you proposed an alternative, and you proposed actually two alternatives, that either it be representative or that it be sortition based. And then I think there was some third thing that you said that I didn't quite capture.
Yeah, the third thing that I said was that it was kind of in conjunction to that second point with selecting its own members. It could also dismiss its own members.
Oh.
So having the sole power of selection and dismissal of members, I thought was, if in the very least, if the power of dismissal should maybe be in some other body or something, in my opinion. So yeah, so those are my thoughts about the first proposal, and then my thoughts about my second proposal was that I thought that the enumerated critiques that they have of the first proposal were pretty spot on, because they started by saying this is what we don't like about the first proposal. And I can bring up that what they said there. I agreed that the national proposal as it currently stands would, well, so I agreed with what they said there. I'm not going to go through them all again. Um, and I liked the idea of having a regional level. I have some reservations about it, kind of like what Pam said with it taking up resources. I would be hesitant about that, but I also like there being an overarching level that isn't national. Um, so like an intermediate level, I kind of like that. Um, and I, mhm. You're muted.
Yeah, thanks. So you didn't like that from the first proposal that not only does the national select, but also dismisses its own members, and at least the second one should be in the power of some other body. And in the second proposal, you like the critiques of the first proposal, and you also specifically like the idea of having some organization at a regional level, even though you also have some reservations about it taking up resources. Good? Okay.
Um, and then the things that one of the things that I disliked about that proposal was the delegate based. Everything was delegate based. It was local groups send delegates to the regional group, and then the regional sends delegates to the um, to national. And I have reservations about those types of delegate based process because I am hesitant. I don't think that delegates can kind of sum up everyone in a group's feelings as well as like a sortition based process where you're taking a cross section of the group and using that to make decisions. So those were my concerns about that. And then another thing that I liked was I liked that they called for a constitutional convention to kind of hash everything out. And I think that that's important because they were kind of admitting that they didn't have all the answers and that these were just this was just their proposal, but some kind of process needs to go forward to figure everything out.
Okay. So yeah, so you don't like that the second proposal is all delegate based, would prefer some sortition in the mix, and you like the idea of a constitutional convention.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. All right.
So does anyone have any other thoughts that have come up? Yeah, William?
Yeah, that I really liked the stuff that you said. And just one more thing was that not liking that it's delegate based. I feel like a compromise to that could be having delegates, but then also keeping like meetings open to anybody. Like as in you have a delegate whose responsibility it is to go to this meeting, but then keep it open to other people because, and then that would also potentially help with the distraction from local work because people who want to go and participate in the regional and national level can go and do that or can be part of these assemblies of some sort. But yeah, so I think that could
Yeah, I'm hearing you say that maybe a compromise to the um, delegate-based system would be having more open meetings where you still have delegates, but anyone who wants to attend could attend, or maybe a certain amount of people can attend, or something like that. And that would keep delegates more accountable. Is that fair to say?
yeah, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Pam?
I was wondering, one of the things that I didn't see too much about in either of the proposals is how the meetings would be run other than referencing consensus and modified consensus. And I think, for example, what we're doing with today's People's Assembly is a really good format to say this is how we're going to run, or at least make sure that everyone is heard, so that I feel like there should be some sort of specifics in whatever the final proposal would be in how the meetings themselves are taken up. Because we say a lot about representation and diversity and diverse voices, but there isn't really any provision for it in the structure specifically.
So what I'm hearing you say is that something that you felt like was lacking in both proposals was that there wasn't kind of codified ways of decision making in a representative way. Is that a fair reflection?
Yeah, and I want to make sure I get the word diversity and
Diversity, okay.
yeah, diversity of voices into that point, because it's definitely one of our demands, and making sure that we carry that through is really important and not just give it lip service.
Okay, so in addition to that, I'm hearing that you want especially a diversity of voices in that decision-making process, and not just for it to be rhetoric. You want actual structural elements in place to bring that about. Is that fair?
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay.
So what I wrote, if I may check it briefly, something lacking in both proposals about how meetings would be run, like what we are doing here with the People's Assembly, helping make sure that everyone is heard, would like specifics about how meetings are organized / structured to ensure diversity of voices. Is that close?
Yes, that's good. And adding some sort of structure for bringing those diverse voices to the table to begin with.
Okay.
And just as kind of an illustration, that the first proposal and even the second one, I suppose, the first proposal almost sounds like they're setting up a fraternity or a sorority where they're saying we get to decide who's at the table, and then we get to decide when they get to actually participate, and then we get to decide when they're kicked off. It makes me nervous.
Okay, so I'm hearing that in addition, as an illustration to that, you think that the first proposal, as an example, their power to decide who's at the table, at the decision-making table, and when they get to make decisions, and all of that is kind of setting up like a fraternity or sorority, kind of like an insiders club that goes against and is it fair to say it goes against the kind of the lip service that they paid to the diversity of opinions and that kind of stuff?
Right, it makes it look like lip service. I put a big X through the new member process that they have, because I was like, what the heck? You can write what the heck in the notes too, I suppose.
Okay, I'm curious, time check wise, where we are. I think we have a whole 15 minutes. Is that true? Because this was 3 to 5 and we've left 45 minutes for the end. So yeah.
Well, do you have any thoughts about this to share, Rosa?
Well, sure. I would like whatever.
Yeah, William.
Would you like me to take notes for you, Rosa? I can do that while you're talking.
Lovely. That would be really sweet.
Yeah, great. Okay, I will do that. Great.
I would like to have whatever final proposal gets created, have something that be presented in a way that feels somewhat simpler to understand. Like, I'm just concerned, like, I was glad on the one hand, so this is specifically with reference to the second proposal, I was glad on the one hand that people were thinking through so much. And at the same time, I was concerned that it was going to feel way too complex and overwhelming to people. So I was wanting to see like graphics or just kind of a more simplified version. So yeah, so that was one concern I had. Something I really liked was when I saw the oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So just to reflect that back is one concern that you had. Did you say with both proposals or just with the second proposal?
I think I'll stick with the second one.
Okay.
For now.
With the second proposal, was that you felt like it was too. You were glad that they were thinking through everything, but you felt like it wasn't presented in a simple way, and there weren't enough graphics illustrating how things work, and you felt like it could have been presented simpler. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, thank you. And I did very much like the table that they included in terms of these are the things that are going to be done at the, local, these are the things that are going to be done at the regional, these are the things that are going to be done at the national. So, so I liked that specific about it. And I also really liked that it felt like, let's come together regionally and then maybe have the regions decide how to come together in a national way. Like, it felt like it was more organizing from the bottom up. And so I liked that about it.
Okay, so to reflect that back, you said that you liked the chart, the table. You thought that that was an example of a graphic which helped kind of simply lay out the different responsibilities at the different levels. And you also liked about the second proposal the kind of what you perceive to be a bottom-up nature, where the people at the local levels were choosing people to go to regional who were choosing national, so it was kind of flowing down up. Yeah. So is that close?
Yeah, yeah. It just felt like kind of building up from the bottom rather than just starting at the top. And then I'm not going to repeat some of the things that people have already said because I agree with them. But I'll just say that something I liked about the first proposal is I liked where they clearly defined what the function of the national team would be. And I'm not saying that the second proposal didn't. I haven't had a chance to go back and look at that, but I think whatever proposal comes up, like having that clear definition of like, this is what we do is really good.
Okay, so you're saying that you like from the first proposal the clear definition of the kind of responsibilities and powers of the national team, where you also said that you weren't sure about how clearly enumerated those responsibilities were in the second proposal, but definitely in the first proposal, you felt like they did a good job of laying them out. Is that fair?
Yeah. So that, I think it's in section 1, which is just, oh no, it's section 2, which is just what is the purpose of the national team. I like that it was specifically laid out. Yeah. And I don't know yet if I haven't gone back to look at the second proposal. I'm assuming that's there too, although it may be different, but I just think that it's good to have a real clear mandate. So, yeah.
Okay. And now we also have a text response from Kendall, who said, I'm in agreement that I didn't like from the first proposal about it picking its members, feels exclusive, and that it goes against the idea of inclusivity, right? Some things about the first proposal seem to push some people away, especially people who are diverse. I'm in agreement with the people, with what people were saying before. Okay, so is it fair that you're saying that you feel like you also don't like the new point that you raised is that you feel like the national group choosing its own members from the first document feels exclusive and compromises diversity. Is that fair to say? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
From reading Kendall's point, I think one of the pieces that she's adding to the discussion is that it not only seems like it could be exclusive, but that it's actually pushing people away,
Mhm.
which is a more, I think, more strong of a position than we're keeping in the notes. Just want to, I'll let you say if that's true, Kendall, but that's what I'm seeing.
Okay, so you're concerned about it not only just being exclusive, but it actively pushing people away. Okay, thank you. Um, does anyone else have any more points that they've just thought of in this little bit of time since they've last spoken? Sure, Pam.
There was one thing that I circled when I was looking it over is that I hadn't noticed before is that the second proposal is limiting the decision-making bodies to no more than 15 people, which I think is interesting. I think that's good from the point of view of actually getting to decisions. And it ends up that you end up having to do trade-offs, which kind of circles back to what you were saying earlier, Quinn, about making sure that there's some sortition or deliberate process to set out who those representatives are.
So I'm hearing you say that you noted that the second proposal limits the number of people in each decision-making body to 15 people, and you said that you liked that might cause people to come to decisions faster, but you wanted to make sure that uh, some kind of sortition or something like that was used, or some kind of process that was representative, so that is your worry that it wouldn't feel inclusive or wouldn't be inclusive otherwise?
I just think that you're assuming that 15 spots would be enough to be able to get that diversity of voices. And so I think that you have to make sure that that's the case and not just choose 15 out of the sky.
Okay, so I'm hearing you say that there should probably be a more thoughtful way of choosing a number per decision-making group, and that 15 feels a little bit arbitrary, and that you'd like it. You're not. It doesn't seem like you're opposed to setting some kind of limit, but that maybe a more thoughtful process should be, or a better explanation of why 15 was chosen would be good. Okay. So
Yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Edwin just said that we have 10 minutes left. So
Yeah,
would you like to go through the notes that we've compiled, Rosa?
yeah. And one of the things I'm doing just to make it easier when we report out, I'm trying to reorganize them briefly into first proposal likes and dislikes, second proposal likes and dislikes. You know, what elements do we like? What elements do we? And so, yeah, please help me out here if
Sure.
you can. Um, Actually, maybe this should be C. Second proposal likes, second proposal dislikes. So this would go in here. Yeah, so maybe if everybody could just take a moment to read it over, what we have on our notes.
Yeah, I like that you've labeled, or at least that someone has labeled the first proposal and second proposals with the actual where those came from, because I think that us just throwing around the terms first proposal and second proposal is a little bit vague for other people that might watch this in the future. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, some helpful person did that. It wasn't me.
Okay, well,
and
thank you.
then likes about both and concerns about both is another thing. Concerns about both, because there was also that. A, B, C, D, that would be E. Concerns about both would be F. So this is one, and this is, I think, connected with that. I guess I'll just make this 2. Okay. Like constitutional convention, that would go under likes for the second proposal, yes? Is that true?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, I'll get that.
Where would the
Something lacking in both proposals, that would be under
concerns with both?
concerns about both, yeah. So we have here, we have 1, and then this is a second. Okay.
Where do you think possible compromise between delegation and sortition would fall?
Oh, let's put that right under the, let's put that under concerns about both, because it's a possible solution to a concern about that, yeah?
Okay.
Yep, great. Concerns about both and potential solutions. So for the dislikes, first proposal dislikes, including potential solutions, because in number 2, B2, there was an element that you disliked, but at the same time, you also had an alternative, right? So anytime we have second proposal dislikes and possible solutions, yep. Did
Where is?
have we lost something?
I just copied the. Where's first proposal dislikes? First proposal dislikes. Here it is.
Yeah,
Here we go.
this I think I'm going to put under second proposal dislikes. Glad everything yet would like be overwhelming to people.
Can I
Okay.
jump in with a question, a clarifying question?
Yep.
There was someone, I can't remember who, said they liked their critiques of the first proposal, that it was
That's in the
spelled out.
proposal, yeah.
Was that,
Mhm.
does that mean that they liked that it was spelled out, or that they agreed with the critique?
Like that, that's a good question. Second proposal.
Yeah, I had said that, and I liked that they were spelled out, and that they. I think, and I agreed with them mostly. Although going back and reading it now, I slightly disagree with some points, but I mostly like that they were spelled out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I think it's, if there's a specific one that we agree with, I think it might be helpful to raise it as a concern about what we don't like about the first one, and specifically, instead of like, we like the whole list, because then it's just less detail specific if we're like,
Yeah.
somebody might want to say I agree with all of them, but in general, I think in this process we're like kind of trying to break it down more specifically. So, and also for dislikes, I want to put concern/dislikes, because sometimes it's a concern. And I'd like to add something through there, if I may. I'm going to ask somebody else to write it down under the second proposal, concerns, dislikes. I'm concerned that not everybody knows what SOS is, and so it could be hard for people to make a decision about something when they don't have the necessary background. Like, I personally think that SOS is really cool, but I'm wondering if, as a possible solution, it would be helpful to refer someone to some kind of very simple, like little story of how SOS works, or something that would, because I'm just concerned that people who don't have experience with SOS would really have a hard time responding to it. So
Okay. I'm hearing you say that you said that you were concerned that the definition of SOS and exactly how it works wasn't exactly spelled out in the second proposal. And you proposed as a solution that they could link to the final proposal. If SOS was used in a final proposal, could link to some kind of description of SOS, or even like a story using SOS. Is that close?
yes, thank you. And I just responded to Kendall on the chat that SOS stands, I believe, for self-organizing system or self-organizing structure. I'm not sure. And it's based on sociocracy and holacracy, but it's been adapted a bit for XR. And I think we're not supposed to say anything about that it's based on sociocracy and holacracy, because people are afraid that then people will think Zappos, and Zappos generated a tremendous amount of bad press when they implemented a sociocracy or holacracy thing, and they had a bunch of rebellion and whatever. And so anyway, so sorry, Kendall. I know it's really confusing, and yeah, this is a bit of a geeky people's assembly, but thank you for hanging in there. I hope the part that you're appreciating is that people really want to listen to each other. So I'm going to return to the main room. This has been really cool to be here with everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, NL. Were you in a small group?
I'm just joining now.
You're just joining now. Okay, so you'll
Yeah.
get to see the work that the small groups were doing.
Good.
Cool. All right.
Oh, if you're recording, Rosie, you can stop.
Oh, thank you.